Dan Landis has spent his entire life immersed in aviation. From taking his first flight in a Cessna at just 6 months old to building his RC skills alongside his father and grandfather, Dan's journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. He's competed in F3A at the US Nationals, worked as a full-scale flight instructor, flown massive 1,500-pound UAVs with 35-foot wingspans in Afghanistan, and contributed to the RC community through his time at Hobbico and Futaba. Now, Dan is a key member of Boomerang Jets, continuing to push the boundaries of RC aviation. Today, I'm thrilled to have Dan on the show to discuss the latest projects at Boomerang Jets, including some exciting models developed in collaboration with their new partner, FTL Innovations. We'll explore their new Atom, the highly anticipated F-16, and even talk about the new Mini ViperJET and Vortex turbine prototypes they're currently testing. Well, hey Dan, how are you doing?
Doing well, and how about yourself today?
Good. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Hey, so we have a lot of ground to cover. I really want to do a big deep dive on all things Boomerang Jets. You guys have been releasing a lot of cool stuff. I know that people are very excited about all these new jets. But maybe before we go there, let's try to get to know Dan a bit more. Can you talk about how you got started in the hobby, what you've been up to?
Sure. Actually, I've been in aviation my entire life. When I was born, literally the first question my father asked the doctor was, how old until he can go in our family airplane? Not, is he okay? Not any of that. How old until he can go in the airplane? So at 6 months old, I was in the co-pilot seat in Dad's 182 and already flying in the airplanes and doing. And as I got slightly older, I was out flying the models with my father and my grandfather. And actually, if you look over my right shoulder, that's a picture of me. I think I was about 4 in that picture, with back an old-style craft radio and flying and doing everything with my father and grandfather then. And as I got older, Dad asked if I'd be interested in competing. And so we took up flying pattern, something that he had done when he was a kid, and flew all the different classes all the way up through F3A, the highest class, and flew that for many years, top 10 finisher at many nationals. Had a great time doing that, and so always been in aviation. Got all my full-scale pilot ratings, and I'm a flight instructor and all of that, which is fantastic. Still use my flight instructor rating and have a blast with that and get to fly some really neat airplanes. Moving on from all of the schooling and everything, I ended up going to actually work for a contract company flying large UAVs over in Iraq and Afghanistan. 1,500 pound, 35-foot wingspan. So
Wow.
large airplane. I
bird.
mean, we would use about 3,000 foot of runway to take off and land, and that's the part that I did, was actually taking off and landing. I did that with Chip Hyde and Archie Stafford and a good couple other guys that were doing it when I was out there.
Wow.
And we'd travel back and forth to Afghanistan, Iraq, and back to the U.S. and be out for quite a while. Got done with that and came back to the States and had a sponsorship with Hobbico, Futaba, Great Plains for a long time. And they offered me a position there, so I moved out to Illinois, which is where I currently live. And worked for them for quite a while, had a fantastic relationship with them and really enjoyed working there. And unfortunately, things went a little bit downhill with the company itself, and they went out of business. And I moved on to some other stuff and did some drone work all over the country. And now at Boomerang Jets.
Nice. You've done a bit of everything.
Yeah, a little bit.
A bit of everything, RC and even full scale.
Absolutely.
I've even seen that your family seems to run some kind of full-scale fly-in, right?
We do. This will be our 5th year hosting it. It's the 5th Flying Horseman fly-in down in Virginia at the airport identifier is VG16, May 16th through 18th. On average, we get 100 to 120 airplanes, full-scale airplanes. Mm-hmm. We have over 500 people usually with motorhomes and tent camping and people driving in. And it's just a fantastic weekend for all. I mean, all aviation, all fun. You don't even have to be a pilot. Drive in, come enjoy, talk to the pilots. And we do a big barbecue Saturday, open to anybody, no charge. Last year, I want to say we smoked somewhere in the realm of 32 pork butts and 27 chickens for lunch, and had all the sides and all the fixings and everything to go with it. And even with poor weather last year, we still had over 250 people and had everybody in the hangar, and just a very good time. So it's a big event.
I also saw some videos online. Looks like it's also a really, really nice location.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and just my parents did very well when they retired. And you've got the horses on one side, the airplanes in the hangar and runway on the other side, and just a beautiful piece of property.
Well, I want to go hang out there with your parents.
Absolutely, come on down.
What type of full-scale planes do you guys fly?
So we currently own an Aranca Champ, a Cessna 185, and a Great Lakes biplane.
Oh, nice. That one is a pretty cool one.
We do. But I'm fortunate enough to have lots of very good friends that have some very cool airplanes, and I've flown everything from T-34s to AT-6s, P-51s, L-39s, L-29s, T-33s, so a whole range of fun and different, exciting airplanes.
Nice. And it sounds that in terms of the RC side of things, you spend a good chunk of your time doing pattern competition, F3A. At what point did you start getting into jets?
So I actually I don't know if retired is the right word, but kind of slowed down the F3A stuff about 4 or 5 years ago. It just got to be difficult with life and travel and work and putting in the practice that was required. But I still love the competition, so I actually slid from pattern into scale, and scale has still got that feeling of precision, and you still have to fly it precise, but now it's going to be precise to match the full scale. Mm-hmm. So I did that for a little bit, and had been flying jets on and off with some friends for a while there, but scale was kind of what gave me that little push to move into the jet stuff, and just took off from there. So about 5 or 6 years that I've been flying jets.
What were your first couple of jets?
The first one was a foam Super Viper, and then a foam MB339, all actual turbines, and then moved into one of the big Harlock 2.5 meter Vipers with a 160 in it, and just from there all up. And actually the L39 that I competed with last year at the Nationals is done up in the same color scheme as one of my very good friends' full-scale L39, and if you go back and search or whatnot, we can find pictures of the model with the full-scale, and that was a pretty cool photo shoot we did.
Nice. And now you're working with Boomerang Jets. How did you get involved with them?
So Greg Alderman, who's a very good friend of mine, been with Boomerang and Heli Direct forever. We were hanging out at his house one night, going to go fly the following day, and he just put it out there, and we started talking, and next thing you know, I was working at Boomerang, and it works great. I work from home probably 90% of the time. I've got a 1,200 square foot workshop here at the house, and can do all my testing and everything that I need to as far as engine and build and setup here at the house. And then I've got a local field to fly the jets at that's 15 minutes away, so that's easy. And then travel throughout the whole summer when all the events are going on to the different events and all over the country.
I think when people hear about Boomerang and jets, I think probably they think of the Boomerang jet, the one from like, I don't know, what is it, like 15, 20 years ago? Like one of the very first original jets in the RC scene. Are you able to talk a bit about the history of the Boomerang Jets company? I think maybe not everybody is familiar with it.
So a little bit of background. Boomerang was started quite a while ago, but like you said, about, 15, 18 years ago, over in the UK, actually. And airplanes were flying great, and it was a great intro trainer jet. It was a twin boom jet, so you didn't need a pipe. Just a very simple jet, but a nice straight wing, good learning platform. Lots of people took advantage of the model back then and really enjoyed it. And that gentleman took the company about as far as he could take it. And it was bought out by another gentleman here in the United States, and he moved everything over here and started to grow the company a little bit, but still just a one-man operation at that point. And he brought in some new models and made some new things and did some great work with the company. But again, got as big as he could take it as one man, as a not a part-time, but as a side job. He had his regular full-time career, and he was doing, the Boomerang stuff on the side. So, my current boss, Sam at Heli Direct, was talking to him and looking at it, and also lives in Boston. And it just seemed like a great match for the two of them. And with Sam's background and whatnot in marketing and aircraft and all of that, and Heli Direct being, as big and as successful as it is, let's jump into the jet side. And so off we went, and Sam's been knocking down the doors, and we've been doing great with it. And we're no longer just that intro trainer first jet sort of airplane. We've got a whole lineup now of not just the twin boom airplane, the two that we had, the Elan and the Sprint and the Super Elan now. But now we've got things like the Atom behind me. That's, your full-on composite sport jet, and just taking off and doing phenomenal with that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that also comes from you guys starting to work with FTL Innovations, right? I know a lot of the current jets, the J10, the Atom.
That's correct. Last year we started working with them, and we became the exclusive distributor for the United States. So we get all our own color schemes. We can do custom color schemes. Any of the products that they have, we can do anything that we'd like to do with them, and they're just fantastic to work with. Any of our own designs, we actually have a couple designs that they're working on for us that will be Boomerang only through FTL, and just great people to work with. The quality is just absolutely incredible, and fun airplanes to fly.
That Atom looks really, really good. I've seen one of them in person, I believe, in maybe Journal. And I've seen a couple of videos, and it looks really, really nice. It's one of those planes that looks good just in terms of aesthetics, but also it gives the impression that it's very beginner friendly. But at the same time, if you have an experienced pilot that has like yourself, like a background on precision robotics, it looks like it could be a fun precision plane. But then Absolutely. I think I've even seen some people starting to put like thrust vector systems, and seems to also be very stable in 3D maneuvers, right?
100%. So when I was doing testing with it, when you were at Jonal, you saw my yellow one, which was the very first sample, and that was the first one we had. Flew that one for a while with a 142 and sold that to a customer that just had to have the airplane right now. The orange one that you saw at Jonal was the second one that I wrote the build manual off of, and we put thrust vectoring in it, and it's got a 160 and flies absolutely phenomenal. And actually, that one just this past week found a new home in Puerto Rico. We had that down there. That was with Greg down in Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. And it was, again, somebody saw it and they had to have it. So that one's gone to a new home. I ended up building a pink one and putting a 180 in it with the thrust vectoring. And it was just a rocket ship and had tons of power and hovered and did all the 3D stuff, which was just amazing. Great F3A or F3S airplane, and all the 3D stuff. And again, traveling around and going for work. Customer saw it at an event. I have to have that airplane. Next thing you know, it was off, and so now I've got the red, white, and blue one behind me that I've put together. And this one I went to the other end of the spectrum with to see what it would do, and it's got a 100 in it. And When I tell you, it's just as much fun with the 100 and a great intro jet, but just a great fun all the time jet. I mean, it gets out of the grass, it loops, it rolls, it does everything you want it to do with no problem whatsoever. And all up takeoff weight's about 23.5 pounds. Empty, it's just over 21 pounds, I believe. Mm-hmm. So just a fantastic airplane.
Pretty crazy. It can take anything from a 100 to a 180.
Exactly.
It's a big range. It seems like it also might be like a good good first jet for somebody with like a good amount of experience flying other complex planes, or maybe like a second jet, maybe.
Absolutely.
Like Ranger or something like that.
You said it very well. If you've got a good understanding of heavy airplanes and how a jet or an EDF style airplane or a heavy airplane is going to fly, certainly you could move into it for a first airplane, no questions. But if you're at all concerned, it's a great second airplane and will do everything that you want to do. And you could take the motor from your first turbine and move it right in here.
And then there's a bigger Atom, right? Actually, I should ask you about this. I think I've been a bit confused when I look at Boomerang Jets' website and FTL's website. I see that FTL has a Lancer that looks a lot like the Atom, and then Boomerang has the Atom, but then there's a Lancer that looks totally different. Can you clarify that a little bit?
Sure. So before we started working with FTL and before FTL had even released anything, we had already come out with an airplane that we called the Lancer. So that's totally different. Doesn't look anything like the Atom that's behind me. And when FTL had come out and they had released the Lancer, that was, again, before we were even working together. So there was no, hey, can we kind of talk names and do this or do that? And, so coming into the U.S. market, we had to change the name just a little bit or come up with something else to call it. So we came up with the Atom, and it's working. It sticks.
So is the Atom 2.8 in the US yet? Have you gotten to try the big one yet?
So that is not in the States at the moment. Give it a little time.
All right.
Not much, but just a little bit of time.
I bet you're excited about that one. If the small one flies well as it seems, I mind that the big one should be even better.
Absolutely would agree.
The other couple of planes I've seen from FTL have been the J10, right, and the F-16. And the J10 is actually like a relatively small, I think, in comparison to other brands, like on the smaller end, and it's also pretty affordable, right?
So yes, both the J10 and the F-16 are in the U.S. and we do carry. Well, let me rephrase that. The J10 is currently in the U.S. The F-16 is in the container on the way here now. We should have them at the end of February. We're doing 2 stock color schemes so that you can call up when they get here and have it sent to you, and you'll get it right away. If you decided that you wanted to do a custom scheme, we can certainly do the custom scheme, and we'll figure out shipping for you. And do you want to wait and put it in a container? Do you want to airship it? However you want to get it to you, we're absolutely happy to do that. The F-16 is a 7 scale, and it's a plug and play. So all of our own torque servos are going to be installed. All the push rods are in. All of the landing gear are in, the lights are installed, all the wires are run, fuel tank is in. Basically get the airplane, drop in your turbine, put your radio equipment, pick your gyro, batteries, make a radio program, and go and fly.
What turbine do you recommend for the F-16?
So the F-16, again, has a very large range of what you can put in there. It'll take actually anything from an 85 and fly well, all the way up to a 190, depending on what you want to do. Currently, I'm flying my prototype on a 130, and that's absolutely more than you need. I almost think that I might put a 100 in it later this year and just fly it with the 100. And it's just a fantastic airplane. It slows down, it goes fast, it goes up. Whatever you want to do, it does it well, and it's easy, and it fits in the average SUV.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So that could also be like a good first or second kind of scale jet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely would be a good first scale airplane, not a problem.
What about that J10? I last year I flew Pilot RC J10, and I was very positively surprised. I know that J10s, like Delta Wing airplanes, are not that popular, but it actually flew great.
People are scared of them because it's not a conventional looking airplane. It looks strange. It looks like it should be weird, and it's not bad. It flies fantastic. What people need to get their head around it, and it took me a couple of flights to understand it as well, is you have no flaps, so you've got to get your nose up into that, nose high, regime on your landing to slow down. And the wing is going to provide plenty of lift. That's the great thing with the Delta Wing. I knew it in the back of my head, but you still just, you're used to your normal airplane and not pitching up that far. But once you get that figured out, it's easy airplane to fly. Flies great. Total point, shoot, go where you want. And it's another one. It'll take an 85 to, about the biggest you're going to fit in there is about a 140. There's not a lot of space in the tail of the airplane, but that's, kind of your range, and that's got thrust vectoring as well.
Yeah, no, that's the same experience I had with the Pilot J10. It feels to me like it's a really good platform for first thrust vector jet
Yes.
for somebody trying to get into it. It's true that I think the first couple of flights you have to get used to the way to bring the nose up for landing to slow it down.
Yep.
Because at the beginning, it's a bit scary to see how high alpha you have the plane at and how slow the plane looks.
Yep.
But the plane doesn't fall. Like one of the things I really like with the J10 is that you cannot really stall it. Like you're not
Yes.
gonna get a scary situation as long as you have some power. Like the only thing that's the worst thing that's gonna happen is that the plane will fall vertically, slowly, like a leaf would if you don't have
Yes.
power, right? But the plane is not gonna bite you ever.
No.
Which
No.
which I think is one of the typical common problems I see with, especially with like newer jet pilots or pilots new to aerobatics, and they start trying a couple of new maneuvers, and someday they like maybe pull a bit too hard on the elevator, and the wing stalls. The
Yeah.
J10, the worst thing is that it will like slowly fall, and if you are very close to the ground and you have no power, then eventually you meet the ground. But other than that, like it will never bite you.
Exactly. Exactly.
The other thing that I saw from the other thing I saw from FTL recently is an announcement about the new turbine, their own turbine they're releasing. I think it's called Vortex. Am I right?
That's correct.
And that looks, a lot of companies are always coming up with their new version of whatever. Right? Like there's a lot of new servo companies. There's a lot of new plane companies. Sometimes a lot of them look very similar. This one is not that. This one is definitely something new in the
It is
RC
definitely
turbine industry.
a very unique, a very different look to it. Still in the testing phase right now. I've probably got about 8 or 9 hours on the one that I'm testing. Runs absolutely fantastic. It's really a unique system the way that they have designed it. So you've got the turbine, and everything is basically inside the turbine. So you have no external fuel pump, you have no external ECU, you have no external boxes. It's the turbine, a wire that comes up to a small box that you put, and when I say small, I mean it's about 2 inches by maybe a half an inch by a half an inch that you mount wherever you want in the airplane. And then a lead breaks off from there, and one end goes to the battery, and one end goes to your receiver, and that's it. Super nice and clean and easy. And then you've got your 6 mil fuel line that goes directly to the turbine. You can run a UAT if you'd like to. I've personally watched this engine eat bubbles that you would think should kill the engine. So it's pretty unique design and whatnot, and flying fantastic.
I think right now they have only one size, right? Or they are working on single size for now.
Correct. It's a 105 right now, and there are multiple other sizes that are in the works.
Okay. Do you think that could be a good fit for something like the Atom or the
Oh,
J10?
absolutely. Great engine for the Atom, the F-16, the J10. Absolutely would fly all three of those airplanes. Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think recently I think the other maybe major new development I've seen in turbines was Kintec with their fifth generation and the quick start, and now having FTL with the Vortex with a complete different design, complete different look. It's gonna be interesting to see how that works, and if other manufacturers or their turbine companies kind of follow their lead there.
Absolutely.
And I'm guessing that if testing goes well, we might see Boomerang Jets carrying those FTL turbines in the future.
That's kind of where it's looking like, but we're still in the testing phase.
One model that we haven't talked about yet, but I see a hint of it behind you, is that small Viper. Can you talk about that one?
Sure. So that is our new Mini Viper. It's kind of coming back. So we did the Harlock Viper about, I don't know, this is going back about 4 or 5 years, a small Viper, same size as that. And it's basically the same size. It was a huge hit. So we're bringing the Viper back. It's slightly larger than the red and white Horizon E-Flight Viper. That's foam. Ours is all composite. It's designed for a turbine. It'll go turbine or EDF. So if you wanted to run 12S EDF, it'll actually come with the fiberglass pipe for an EDF system in it. And if you wanted to change out and do a turbine, you get the turbine conversion kit, which has got your pipe, your metal 2-walled pipe, and your composite fuel tank. Put that in there, set it up, and off you go with your turbine Mini Viper, and it flies fantastic. It's about a 6.5-7 minute flight on a 55 size turbine is what I have in this one now. I've flown it on everything from a 35 to a 65, and it's just a blast. And it will fit with the wings on. I can slide it in the back of my Corvette. So, I mean,
Nice.
it's a neat little airplane that you can take to the field with not a lot of space and still get your turbine fix.
How is the weight? I feel like you mentioned before how it's just a bit bigger than the E-flite Viper 90, right? And that's a foam one. How's the kind of the comparison of foam versus composite? That does it turn out like pretty similar, or
So weight-wise, you're about 11 to 12 pounds, depending on which turbine you go with, and and your battery choice and everything. But about 11 to 12 pounds. But it flies like a real airplane. And when I say that, it lands nicely. You know how most of the foam airplanes, kind of when you're coming into land, they're nice, and then they kind of just fall out of the sky, sort of thing. They just kind of lose it there. This is your regular airplane. It comes in, it lands nicely. So that's the big difference on landing. But in the air, it's solid. It's not flexing. It's fast. It's strong. You can pull on it. It's not your foam airplane. It's a nice, true composite airplane.
is that what you have for there? Is that gonna be one of the stock schemes?
So yes, so the neon pink will be one scheme, and the second one will be a yellow scheme. I don't have a picture of it on me right now, but those are going to be the two stock schemes that we're going to be offering it in.
Nice. Yeah, that pink one is pretty cool. It's a pretty high visibility.
It stands
Pretty
out
unique.
fantastic.
Pretty unique color for a Viper.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fun. I think lately pink and purple planes are kind of like coming back. For a long time it was just the typical red and white and blue. Lately I've been seeing a lot more of this, and they actually look really cool.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Everybody gave me a hard time when I said I wanted to do the pink on there, and we put it on there, and I got it. I love it. And then we took it out to the field, and I flew it over Christmas. I did the test flights, and just absolutely blown away on how the pink showed up in the sky.
In terms of gear for your jets, I know you're using, or you're starting to test now that Vortex turbine, but in the meantime, what type of turbine have you been using in your jets?
So it depends on the size that we need. Either King Tech or Jet Central are the turbines that we've been using.
Servos, I assume that you've been mainly using those torque servos that Boomerang carries?
So either the Torque servos or JR servos, we sell both. Torque is our house brand servo. JR, I'm personally sponsored by JR, and we also sell JR servos. So I'll go back and forth depending on what I need or size wise. But those are the two servos that we've been using the most of. And then for the gyros, we've used Cortex before, but now we've started to move over and use the AR Advanced Radio, their new SF10 Pro.
How do you like that one? I heard good things about it.
Fantastic. I have as much flying as I've done and as much competing and all that. I've moved everything, and hands down, I think it's probably the best, the next gyro out there, like the best one out there.
What would you say are the main differences in terms of both setup and then flying behavior?
Setup is super easy. It comes with a nice little screen that's dedicated straight up to the gyro. You plug it in and it works. It's not like having to use a computer and plug in USB and wait for this to activate and that to activate, and are we talking to each other? As long as the airplane's got power, you plug this in, and I have a screen that's real simple and easy to adjust, and can put it in my pocket and take it out to the flight line, make a tweak, make a change, and off you go. So I really like that as far as programming setup and whatnot. It's just fast, it's easy, and good to go from that. But in the air, there's something about the way that they've done all of their encoding and stuff, and it's got a locked-in feel that I have not felt with any other gyro. They've got a heading hold function where normally most gyros you don't want to run or fly them in heading hold. It feels like you're always fighting the airplane. Their version of heading hold, though, is heading hold when your stick is at neutral, but as soon as you move the stick off, it goes back to a rate gyro. So you're still getting the stability, but you get heading hold when you're going on, that straight line or whatever you're on where your hands off, you have heading hold, and it's just fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine that they also have that kind of custom. When you are starting to get into oscillations, the gain probably goes down. I think that's one
Correct.
of the
You
things I
can have
really
that
like.
on as well. So if you start to get too fast for your gain setting, it'll automatically adjust it and bring it back down.
Yeah, that's something I haven't tried any of their gyros, but that's something I really like. Even in their
Yes.
previous version, I like the idea because when I'm setting up, I've been using Cortex so far, and it's good.
Yep.
But I always wish that either I had like some kind of like GPS integration, so that when
Yep.
the ones I fly tend to be like thrust vector jets, so the speed range is very, very, very big, right? So it's not the same
Absolutely.
when you are doing like a fast knife edge over the runway versus when you are doing a hover.
Yep. Yep.
And I tend to be very conservative. I tend to use very, very low gains because I don't want to worry at all about getting into oscillations because I'm going a bit faster today and I'm going against the wind on a windy day. And I really like the concept of, hey, you put this here where you think it's good, and if you get into that situation, the gyro will take care of bringing down the gain for you. That seems like a really good idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with you.
One thing I forgot to mention, or one thing I forgot to ask you about the FTL models that we talked about, is the landing gear. Is that using, like, I assume it's electric gear?
They are electric gear, and depending on the model, some of them are JP gear, and some of them are actually their own in-house, their own design, their own manufactured landing gear. So it's some pretty nice stuff, and it's very robust.
Cool. So I assume that you being in the positions you're in right now, you tend to talk to a ton of people that build their own jets, and also a lot of people that are pretty new to jets.
I do.
So I would love to hear, in your experience, what are the typical mistakes people make when they are getting into jets, whether it is in terms of buying the wrong equipment or doing the wrong things on setup or even flying wise. What are the typical things that you see when you're helping people?
I mean, honestly, there's not one big mistake, and there's not really a lot of what I see is just actually people asking for questions, asking for help before they go down the wrong road. I spend more time helping and showing and talking and answering, how do I do this, or how do I run the fuel line to my UAT? Simple stuff, but not, if you've never done it, it's going to be difficult. You don't know how it all works.
First time is a bit overwhelming, a bit scary.
Absolutely.
I've been there.
But I would much rather answer those questions now. Let's answer it now so you don't make that mistake. And so that's more of the ground sort of stuff. Flying wise, the probably the most common thing that I see is, a new pilot gets scared of slowing down on landing because of that slight delay on the throttle. So they want to land faster, and then they use more of the runway, and then you lock up the brakes at the end. That's probably the most common new turbine pilot mistake, but it's understandable. They're not used to the throttle response, and that you have to think, 5 seconds ahead of the model. Am I going to need throttle? What does the wind feel like? What do we need to do when I turn on to final here? But it all comes with time. So it's nothing big, nothing major. Nothing that's unsafe. Just little things. Teaching and learning, and that's what we're here for.
If tomorrow somebody comes to you asking for help trying to get into jets, so new jet pilot,
Yep.
What do you recommend them to do? What plane do you recommend to get?
Personally, I think that our Boomerang Sprint is an absolute fantastic airplane. It is one of the two boom airplanes, like we talked earlier. It's all wood, so it's easy to repair. You don't have to be great with fiberglassing to do any repairs if you should need to. We have the whole lineup of parts for all the airplanes, so that also helps and makes it easy. But there's a lot of space. It's got a nice, big, straight wing. There's nothing complex about the airplane. It's got retractable landing gear and brakes. Super simple, super easy. Awesome airplane, very stable. And personally, I forgot how much fun it was, or is. That's actually right now what I've been testing the new turbine in is in a Sprint. And it just an absolute blast to fly. So great first airplane, but also a great sport airplane to just go and fly and pull on and have fun. It's a good all-around model.
So like 100 turbine, 120?
Oh,
something
anywhere
like
from
that?
an 85 to a 130 is absolutely a perfect size. The 100 just seems like it's the perfect mate, though. I mean, I can get a 10, 11-minute flight. So it's a very fuel conscious airplane. It doesn't need full throttle, but it'll do whatever you want, and it's fairly light. It's about 14, 15 pounds and flies great with that setup.
What is it about the twin boom setup that makes these airplanes like so kind of friendly? 'Cause I know that the original Boomerang was twin boom, right? And you guys also have the big Elan. It's
So
called
there's the Super Elan, and it's
Super Elan.
well, the big straight wing is part of it. The big horizontal stabilizer as well provides lots of stability, but you don't need a thrust tube. You're not worried about thrust tubes and how close to put the turbine and mounting this and that and whatnot. But I also believe that, and I could be wrong, this is just guessing and knowing a little bit of over in the UK, starting out in turbines over there, a way to break a model down easily. And an airplane that's got a very long fuselage is much harder to transport. All of the booms come off of the Elan and off of the Sprint, so it can be a very small, broken down airplane and easy to transport. And over in the UK, a lot of the cars aren't as big as what we have here with, Suburbans and big SUVs. So I think part of it could have been back then a way to transport airplanes as well as the straight wing and the great flight characteristics.
You mentioned that you have like a pretty big workshop. Kind of curious, what are some of the kind of must-have tools for people get into jets?
That's a hard question, and I wish that I could spin the camera to my sides, but I've got airplanes I can't show yet. I like to have every tool possible, so it's a loaded question for me because I use a lot. I've got belt sanders and bandsaws and drill presses, and you might not need it for every project, but there are certainly projects that I find that I use all of those. And then, there's all the different hand tools to do this job or that job. And having the right tool makes the job a whole lot easier. And I've built some of our airplanes, at our warehouse with just my field box. That you don't need to have everything, but having the right tool makes the job a whole lot easier. Dremel tools, I've got like 3 or 4 different Dremel tools. I've got the little battery-powered one that I use for making, screw holes or for, mounting servos or servo plates. I've got one that's got the 90-degree angle always on it, so I don't have to change back and forth. I've got the regular plug-in one when I need to do some real grinding and need the power. It's having the right tool for the job makes the job a lot easier.
Yep, I agree. I have probably much like smaller, more like modest sub, but yeah, I think definitely every year I start like cutting a couple of things that in the past I thought, it's not really worth it, and then you have it and you realize how nice it is to have. It doesn't mean that it's like 100% required and you cannot do the job without it, but when you have it, it's just so much nicer, it's much more efficient, more enjoyable versus having to like hack stuff around to do like a relatively simple task if you have the right tool.
Exactly.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you've been in the hobby for such a long time, and at a high level too, right? Like competing, even your family was in RC when you were just a kid. So you have seen a lot of things on a very long time horizon. So what are the main things that you've seen, or the main changes you've seen in the hobby since you've been around?
Probably going to 2.4 was one of the biggest changes and one of the best changes that I've seen and have thoroughly enjoyed, as I know most of us have. But now the big change that I'm seeing is not everybody, the swing is more towards turbine airplanes. We all started out with all of our sport airplanes, had a great time with the sport airplanes, and airplanes grew, and then they moved up to 80 inches, and those were big. And then it was a 100-inch airplane, and that was big. And now we're at the 35 and 40% airplane. And they're big, and they're great, and they're fun. But what's next from there? Went to warbirds, and there's still lots of warbirds, and there's lots of the 35 and 40% airplanes, but guys are still looking for something else. So now the turbine is the new thing. When I was growing up, Very, very rarely did you see turbines at the field. It was once every couple of years sort of thing. And, now I'll go for just a day of flying at the local field, and there will be 3, 4, or 5 of us that'll show up with turbines. So that's the next, my opinion, sort of growing area right now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It seems like gen scale was like the next big thing, maybe like 10 years ago or so, then 10, 15 years ago. And now more and more people get into jets. Even I think in the past it used to be like only those people that have a ton of money and have been in the hobby for like 20 years. I feel like now I even meet people that haven't even flown that much prop before getting to jets. I think they maybe started with like EDFs, was their first or second plane, and then they slowly transitioned into turbine jets, which is really interesting. Like I think for me it's like very weird concept having somebody flying turbine jets without like a good amount of like prep experience, because that's different from my path. But it's getting more popular.
I'm the same, but I've got a very good friend that actually started with foamies and learned and had a great time, and then got some of the warbirds, and this is all within a year, right? Got 50cc warbirds, a little bit bigger, and first jet was an Atom, and he's absolutely loving it. And his question, well, what size turbine do you recommend? And I told him what I would recommend, for starting out, 100, 130, and went right to a 170, and he's having a blast.
Nice.
But good pilot, good guy, but he was willing to listen. Called, asked all the questions. We'd have conversations. And that's, I'm very happy to help people out. Normal business hours are great, but I will answer emails and messages on Messenger and stuff at hours past that if I'm available. If I'm around, I try to always answer a question, especially if I can help somebody out with how my building. I'm a modeler too. So when I see a question that comes through on a weekend and it's, oh, well, what do I do with this piece, or how does that go together? I want to try and get back to you so that you're not delayed and waiting for an answer. We all like to get that little bit of help, and I try to do that.
Sometimes people, especially people that have been in the hobby for a while, tend to be a bit pessimistic about the state of the hobby, and things are not the way they used to be, and things like that. And I think since FPV and drones became a thing a couple of years ago, I think we've seen some kind of trends shift around. Do you feel optimistic about the state of the hobby and the future of the hobby?
Things have definitely changed. I don't see that the hobby is going away. I don't see that that's happening anytime soon. I wish things were better, and that some of the organizations, when drones first came out, had not quite incorporated them the way that they did, and had kind of separated them, and seen that they were not the same. Drone racers, I think, are absolutely fantastic, and I get it, and the guys build them and they truly fly them. But the people that are just using a drone to take a photo, it's a tool for their photography. They're not following the same rules. They don't have the background that you and I have of going to the model field, being safe, looking out for a full-scale airplane. We've known that. We've done that for 50, 60 years in the hobby, right? We've never had a problem. Now people are using it to take photos, and, oh, I want to be in town and take a photo of this, that, and the other. That's not really the right place. It's not really safe, Is that really where we should be flying the drone? To you and I, we know better. But these people, I want the picture, so we're going to use it for our actual hobby of photography, not the flying side of it.
Yeah, definitely I think one of the tricky things is that a lot of different things that fly have been kind of clustered under the same umbrella, same category, when they are like in reality extremely different things.
Yes. And even I flew or ran actually some teams for a company that was using drones to survey power lines, and it was a very neat job. Within the first couple days of working for them, they realized what skill I actually came with and made me an instructor, which was great. But when you're trying to teach the job and the flying, I can teach you how to fly the drone and I can teach you what to do, but the experience isn't there. You're trying to fly something and do what is needed, which is great, and I can teach that. But when you're coming with no experience and to know where these people are going out and flying, and it was all safe, but still, do you have the experience to be here? You know, you look at an airline pilot; they don't just go from getting your license to going and flying, you know, an airliner. You have to build up your flight time so you get the experience to go and do that. And here it was sort of taking the newbie that had never really flown and going to fly, you know, your drone and take pictures of the power lines and whatnot at distance. I mean, it was all visual, but you're out there quite far away. And, you know, like you and I understand the difference between a model coming at us and away from us, you know, and right is right and left is right and, you know, back, you know what I'm getting, you know. And these people, you had to teach them never turn the drone so it was nose into you. Always fly it so that the tail is at you so that they could understand the concept of bringing it back and not get confused. So that just experience level is not where we're at with models.
Yeah. With your background in pattern precision aerobatics and now that you're very heavily involved in jets, have you looked into F3S at all?
I have, and it's the same problem that I always come up with is trying to get time to practice and then get time to go to the event, which, I mean, I could make time for the event, but really trying to get out and practice is the hard thing. I do want to try and get to an event this year. They have the nice big one down in Tennessee, which would be great to go to. It's truly just a matter of practice.
Yeah, no, I feel you 100% because that's me too. Like I used to fly, not pattern, but IMAC. But the same general idea. I think the event itself takes time, but it's like a 2, 3, 4 day thing. You can make that happen. But if you want to do well at high level, you need to practice a lot. And it doesn't matter how good of a pilot you are, what your skills are. If you don't have months of practice prior to right before the event,
Absolutely,
it shows up very clearly, and you have very little chance against people that have been put in the time and effort weeks and months before the event.
100%. And I've been at that level and I've put the time in. So I know what it takes and I know how it feels when you go up and you do well. I don't like the feeling of going up and not doing well and knowing that I could do that or I could be there if I had the time. So it's that hard, you know, what do you do?
Yeah. And it's not even about winning or not winning. I think if you finish second or third and you see that the other pilots were just better than you that day, that's okay.
Absolutely.
It's when you go there and you know that you're not at your best because you don't have the chance to practice, and you feel like, oh, hey, you know, if I only had like a bit more time to practice, this would have been different, right?
Exactly. You nailed it. 100%.
Yeah. Any plans for 2025 that people should be watching out for?
I mean, we'll be at all the major events, Joe Nall, Jets Over Kentucky, or Kentucky Jets, Georgia Jets, you know, all the big events will be out all over the place like normal. Stop by, talk to me or Greg, and, you know, any airplanes you want to see or have questions, we're always happy to help and answer them. But lots of new products coming. We've got 2 new airplanes that are in the container with the F-16 that should be here at the end of February, beginning of March. Not going to give you any more information on that yet, but you know, keep your eyes on the website. You'll see some very cool stuff coming in the future. Some new designs coming as well. So just lots of exciting stuff coming, and looking forward to having a great 2025.
Cool. If anybody's interested in kind of looking into one of these Boomerang Jets, asking for questions or anything like that, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Go to our website, shoot us an email, shoot me a phone call. It all comes to me, so either way you can get to me, and it's not a problem, and usually I get back to you within 24 hours.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm not going to take any more of your time. Thank you so much, Dan. I think this was pretty fun. And yeah, have people go take a look at those cool new jets. It's going to be exciting what comes out from Boomerang in the near future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Had a great time.
All right. Take care, then.
Take care.